first trip internationally?
Excluding Mexico, like
Okay.
going to Tijuana. Um, London, Paris, Marseille,
Okay.
and Nijmegen in the Netherlands,
Okay.
Hamburg, and Stuttgart. They were
Got
all part of one business trip.
Okay.
And that was in the 90s because my focus was really on America.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but also, somewhere in there, I went to Nassau. And the other big one was in 93 when my wife and I married. Our honeymoon was in Grand Cayman Island.
Okay. Okay.
So, yeah, 93 was a big year for my international travel because all
Wonderful.
of that was, those first ones were in 93.
And when did you start to incorporate them into the guides, into Soul of America guides?
Well, every place I went, I was just taking notes, sort of like a diary about this,
Mhm.
that, and the other, saving pictures where I could. And I was a terrible photographer to start. Just terrible. Oh man, I lost so many good shots. And but I oh yes, yes. I organized the first Black travel writers cruise,
Okay.
and that was 2001, I think, if memory serves me correctly. And I invited anybody that was writing about it, talking about it. I said, "You need to come on, do this cruise, and so we can share ideas and get out, put our heads together." And so the cruise left from Miami, but it was something special about it because we also were hosted by the first Black built hotel on Miami Beach.
Nice.
And so they were our pre and post hotel for the cruise. And so they did all kinds of special stuff, hosting us and making us feel real special. And of course, we gave them great coverage. All of us did in our own ways. And we told more people to go support them. And so that was, I think, 2001.
Okay.
Oh, I skipped over something. In 1998 is when I incorporated
Okay.
and I name changed from Go Where Travel to Soul of America Travel with a DBA of soulofamerica.com.
Okay.
So,
And why was where that change, was that just a part of the evolution of the brand?
it was the evolution of the brand because by then on the website, I had 10 different destinations.
Hmm.
And I would say featuring these destinations. So it was obviously the soul of different destinations.
Right.
And so I said, well, I want to get this name before anybody else does.
Hmm.
And it is a registered trademark name that we own in the travel space. And so we got that, and we just say what cities we're covering. So that
Hmm.
way I don't have to try to trademark every city, soul of this city, soul of that city. I
Right.
don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
Right.
But
Exactly.
so that was actually a milestone moment for us in April 1998.
Okay.
Um, there was a big disappointment too, but I'll proceed with your next question, and maybe we can skip over.
Okay. Well, we definitely come back to that. What are some of your favorite destinations?
Chicago is my number one urban destination in America.
Hmm.
Paris is my number one urban destination international. My other big favorite is Rio de Janeiro.
Oh, yes. I'm one of my
I,
favorites too.
oh man, and I tell my wife, I said, if Chicago had weather like LA year round, we would be living in Chicago.
I hear you.
Um,
Being from Illinois, I know that,
oh,
although
you're
it's,
from Illinois?
yes, I'm from Illinois, so
Okay.
definitely familiar with those harsh winters, although they're not as bad, I don't think, as they were when I was growing up, but definitely that water is nothing
Hmm.
to play around with in the
Hmm.
wintertime.
Now, in terms of islands,
Mhm.
Um, I'm a little biased towards Kauai.
Okay. Okay.
Kauai, but just because when I go to an island vacation, I want to see beauty, natural beauty.
Mhm.
And I still haven't seen anything more beautiful than that until someday when I go maybe to Tahiti.
On
So
the list.
that's on my wife's list, and I'm sure I'll go there with her one day. I
Awesome.
will. And
What's a destination that you think is underrepresented?
Africa, and I have to first uh, fess up and say I wish Soul of America did a better job with more destinations. Right now, we only have South Africa,
Okay.
Zanzibar, and Egypt.
Okay.
Funding permitting, I would love to do Ghana.
Okay.
I'd love to do Senegal. I definitely plan to do Morocco.
Yes.
I probably want to do Kenya.
Mhm.
And if things settle down, Ethiopia. Because
Okay.
every time I think about Ethiopia, they have something that goes on,
Okay.
and I say, okay, I'll back off that. And but I'd love to cover those. Nigeria, I have a very good lifelong friend who is a dual citizen with Nigeria. She's begging me to come in and cover
Mhm.
either Lagos or
Mhm.
Abuja.
Right.
And one day I probably will, but I have to decide. It's going to be one or the other though, because I don't want to just
Or
try to.
and I've got friends from Nigeria too, and I know both cities, and definitely very popular to see what the distance is between the 2.
Hmm.
Are
Yeah,
they, to see, to hopefully you can make that happen. I mean, you're going that distance, might as well enjoy yourself while you're over there and see if you can, um,
yeah, yeah.
connect with those 2 cities.
But
Great food,
mhm.
great,
Oh
just
yeah,
culture,
yeah,
obviously.
yeah. But I'm actually most interested in going to Senegal
Okay.
because I want to see that giant statue of that king holding
Beautiful.
that. Have you seen that
I've seen
personally?
only seen the pictures, only seen the
Yeah,
pictures.
that's on my bucket list. I definitely want to do that. Um, and I wanted to go to Egypt and also Israel, but obviously Israel's off the table
Okay.
anytime soon.
Right.
Um, just as a Christian, I wanted to go to Israel, but
Mhm.
I've also had a great interest in ancient Egypt, so I wanted to, you know, uh, go all the stuff near Cairo, but also go down to Luxor and Aswan Dam, because the
Mhm.
furthest geographically you go south, which they called north at that time, um, you see more people who of darker African shade, and so. But also, that's where some of the earliest Egyptian kings were from.
Okay.
So that's why I take umbrage with a lot of these representations of the Egyptians that look more Greek
Mhm.
than their African heritage.
Mhm.
But but that's on my list to do
Okay.
as well.
Any US cities, coming back to the US, any cities on your list, whether to visit for Soul of America or obviously build a guide?
Yeah. Well, I should say that I have been to 51 of
Okay.
our 55 cities, and I've been
Okay.
there on an official Soul of America capacity.
Okay.
Um, Amongst two of those that I want to visit, and I will make a point to visit, are Charleston
Okay.
and Columbia, South Carolina. I've had other people on assignment go there, but I need to go there. However, I do expect Charleston to be very similar to Savannah,
Okay.
which I've been to. Um, so those two are hot on my list. If all the stars align, maybe one day Soul of America will do a Denver guide too.
Okay.
Even though I've been to Denver many times, I just haven't got to that because we got a pretty heavy load of work to do.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, but I will say this as well. I'm looking forward to my first trip to Toronto and
Yes.
Montreal. I've been to Vancouver, but I haven't been there. I've had people go on assignment to Toronto and Montreal, but I'm looking forward to going there myself.
And I love Toronto. I was there for the first time last year, and
Mm,
I was it was serious to the point to where I was, like, looking up where could I stay for a month or something,
mhm, mhm.
it was just so relaxing, nice change of pace, food
Oh
amazing,
yeah, yeah.
from a cultural standpoint, so, um, def
Everything I know about it, it's a great foodie city. And
mhm.
Speaking of food, ooh, I
I
thought you were gonna
know.
ask me where I had my best barbecue.
Okay, let's ask where have
Ah,
you had your best
might
barbecue?
surprise some people.
Okay, let's give it to
And
us.
now, before I answer, let me just tell you well, tell the audience where I've been to reach this conclusion.
Okay.
Now, I've been to Raleigh, North Carolina. You know, they're famous for their mustardy, tangy barbecue. Memphis, many times. Been to Nashville. Been to Dallas. Been to Houston. And
And North Carolina,
had
I
all.
visited there
I've
too,
had
right?
barbecue at all these places.
Mhm.
Been to Jackson, Mississippi. Been to Atlanta. Been to Kansas City. Been to St. Louis. Obviously Chicago. Indianapolis. Detroit. Um, Greensboro, North Carolina, Winston-Salem, Charlotte. I've had barbecue at all of these places. The best barbecue meal I ever had was in Atlanta.
Wow. And do
It was
tell.
beef barbecue, beef barbecue.
Okay, okay,
Now, I'm sure the Memphis people would say their pork barbecue is best, but I
right,
did not eat their pork barbecue because I don't eat pork. I did eat their
okay.
beef barbecue.
And sometimes beef tends to be a little tough. So how was that?
Well, what I had in Atlanta was like
Okay, so yeah, so describe what made
unbelievable.
it so
It was just unbelievable.
what made it
Unbelievable.
so unbelievable? The sauce, the seasonings, the
It was everything. The way they cooked it,
mhm.
the sauce, the way they aged the meat, um, you know, they smoked it, and then the sauce. I don't know what that chef put in there, but I'm telling you, it must have been two parts of love and three parts of heaven, something like that. But it was just
It was
tremendous.
amazing,
And
huh?
and believe me, I've had some great barbecue
Mhm.
in Kansas City, in St. Louis,
But this
in
just happened
Houston.
to
This was next level.
this was just like, I cannot get it off my mind, huh?
And this was this older guy. I mean, he probably passed away by now because that was in the 90s when we were
Okay.
working on our Soul of Atlanta map. And but it
And you
was
haven't had
near,
anything match that since?
yeah, it was near Atlanta University complex.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I mean, there've been others that have been close.
Mhm.
Now, here's another one for you. My favorite international meal ever. Okay, it was in Brazil.
Oh, okay, now that's not shocking. That because
And
I would say that's
in Salvador da Bahia,
yep.
I was in the district called Pelourinho, and there was this older black lady who owned a restaurant, and she incorporated a number of recipes that came from Africa,
Mm.
along with some of the things that the Native Americans added.
Mhm.
She put that together with something else. Oh my God. That had to be one of the three best meals in life.
Yeah, you can't go wrong
It
with any
was,
food.
it had a certain flavor in it that I haven't, I haven't tasted replicated anywhere else.
Wow.
I know she had okra in there and some other stuff, but she put something else in there. And it wasn't MSG. It wasn't MSG. This was all natural stuff.
Wow.
And, because they brought over a number of the vegetables
Mhm.
from Africa because a lot of people don't know that the slave trade to South America was bigger than it was to the Caribbean and North America. And it actually
Absolutely.
started there in 1565 in Salvador da Bahia. That's where the Portuguese brought the
Right.
first African slaves. And they brought just crazy culture with them, and especially the cooking part.
Mhm.
And so that was my favorite there. Now here in America, it's just too many for me to name
Yeah.
that I like.
So they have to
And
go to Soul of America to find them out then.
yeah, yes.
They have to go.
Well, okay, sad to say, some of them are gone
Yeah.
because remember my timeline.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a 30-year timeline.
Mhm.
I've seen a lot of great black restaurants, come and go.
Mhm.
And even though it didn't serve great food, it had great atmosphere, and that was Michael Jordan's restaurant in
Okay.
Chicago.
Mhm, I remember that.
The big one, not the small one, the big one. Um, and the food was just okay. And the reason it was okay is because he had to serve this big mass market and high
Right.
volumes.
Right.
But the atmosphere was cool, and it gave you more sense of pride, because this is at the time when Michael Jordan was, basketball god practically.
Mhm.
And so that was cool. But you had to go down to Lim's Barbecue on the south side.
See, gotta go
Best
to the South
barbecue,
Side.
Lim's. Now there were others. He had some competitors, good
Mhm.
competitors,
Mhm.
different on different streets. But I believe Lim's was on 75th Street or something like that. And he was also near the 50-yard line nightclub, which was one of my favorites when I went to Chicago.
Okay, okay.
Um, and but there, Chicago's had many great clubs come and go, and now they have a new batch of
Absolutely.
clubs and restaurants, and that's natural. Those things are going to happen in business.
Now you haven't mentioned New York.
I've been in New York. I went to Sylvia's. I met Sylvia,
Okay.
had a nice little conversation with her. I went to Amy Roof's.
Okay. Yep.
I've been there. If I had to pick between them in terms of what I liked Amy Roof's a little bit better. I
Okay.
like the atmosphere at Sylvia's a little bit more. Both of them were great.
Mhm.
Um, went all up and down 125th Street,
Mhm.
also called MLK Boulevard,
Right.
Lenox Boulevard, been to Small's Paradise, Lenox Lounge, all of those
Mhm.
things because
Yeah.
they've closed, reopened, closed, reopened. But
Definitely just such a great food city. I love New York in terms
yes,
of
yes,
so
yes.
let's talk about that. That's, in terms of traveling for food, we'll travel
Hmm.
for food. I know some of my favorite cities up and down was definitely New York. When I
Hmm.
was in Baltimore, I ate my way through Baltimore.
Mm. Oh,
Um,
those Maryland crabs.
yeah,
Oh my goodness.
Philadelphia was
Really?
amazing, and then, of course, DC.
Yes.
So amazing as a food city, and then I love Atlanta as well,
Hmm.
Miami, of course, Chicago. It's just a different flair. Of course, I'm gonna give love to here to Oakland, but it's just
Hmm.
different where you go, but I love just the wide range of culture and the concepts. The
Hmm.
concepts of the restaurants are so just on point.
Yeah. The best fried chicken I've had in life
Mhm. Not
was
your
in
mama's? Uh-oh.
no, it was in Norfolk, Virginia.
Okay.
These old ladies that were working in the church. The church had a restaurant, and the name escapes me right now. But
Mhm.
they had they broke it down. I mean, down with how they made that fried chicken. Oh my God. I felt like I was having an out of body experience. It was good. And I had my uncle with me,
Uh-huh.
who also grew up in Baltimore. And so, he knew and he agreed. He had the best. And then another time I went back to Norfolk, I took my dad. My dad, who God bless me, is not here anymore. He said that was the best fried chicken he ever had.
Wow.
And they just had those old recipes with the gas stoves and the pots that,
Don't
they
take much.
retain a certain residue or something that they would use over. And they knew they didn't have any clocks or anything like that. They do little tastes
Mhm.
and touch, and they got it just right.
Wow.
Unbelievable. Oh my goodness.
Now
Norfolk.
you were alluding to challenges or some obstacles along
Oh,
the way. Let's dive into that because
ooh,
it's amazing as, anybody who has been in business, we all know that it is
Yeah,
just those days you're holding on, you're on cloud nine, other days you're at the edge, you want to throw in the towel. I mean, there's so many emotions,
yeah.
and I imagine there's a lot for 30 years.
Indeed. Um, w- I'm going to circle back to 1998 when I
Hmm.
incorporated. The attorney that I hired, and I will name because I did hire him, I got receipts.
Hmm.
His name is David Drummond. He was sort of a junior attorney for a law firm in Palo Alto,
Hmm.
which is part of Silicon Valley, for those that don't know.
Hmm.
But there's this part of Palo Alto where all the attorneys had their offices because they were always trying to get business from startups and all of that. And we were a startup in terms of internet, even though we'd been online for a year. But I was trying to go next level, and I got this brother named David Drummond who was recommended to me by a guy named Dr. Frank Green.
Hmm.
Dr. Frank Green was one of the early pioneers of a supercomputer, and he was a black man.
Okay.
And I met him through my affiliation with the Northern California Council of Black Professional Engineers. So Dr. Green recommended me to him to be my corporate attorney. And so I hired him, and we went through starting to file the paperwork. He was late filing the paperwork, and then I never heard from him. I kept calling the office, no reply, email, no reply. Even went by the office, which you normally don't want to do, you
Right.
know, to an attorney. He said he's not around. And then finally, the let me see, it was like 6 months passed, and I never got resolution on the that my file for the name Soul of America Travel had gone through. And then they told me he left the company. I
Mm.
said, left the company? I said, so where did he go? He said,
Right.
well, he went to this small company named Google.
Hmm.
He became Google's chief legal officer when they were starting. He's the one who handled their incorporation.
Hmm. Hmm.
So he just dropped everything,
Wow.
including me. And this was a brother, right? He never responded. He was supposed to be my inroad to introduce me to the VC community back in 98 when I had a better chance of really raising some money,
Right.
right? Because right now I was supposed to be a millionaire because the idea I had for this was big then. And my goal was I was going to hire a whole bunch of people to do this, both the techies and the content creators, the administrators, etc. But and I let him know that. He knew that. And I lost that momentum with him, and I never really got the type of legal representation that had connections with the VC community after
Right.
that. And so that's my big regret, but also that he never responded, even when he made it big,
Yeah.
because he got startup Google stock as the chief legal officer who handled their incorporation.
Wow. Yeah, that's disappointing.
David Drummond.
That's
And I
disappointing.
hope he sees this video because I'm calling him out.
I see. I see. Well, 30 years. What are you going to do to celebrate?
Well, um, at this point in time, I'm just, in this game, when you have 155 travel guides,
Right.
there's always a ton of update work to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we're going to be doing that. We're going to be reintroducing a Florence guide and a Tokyo guide, and then we're going to introduce a Singapore guide.
Okay.
Um, and then we just have a lot of update work to do.
Right.
But I'm trying to put all the pieces together because I would like us to also do short form videos
Okay.
for
Okay.
some of the
In
destinations.
the destinations.
But in terms of celebration, the celebration is that we're still here.
Yeah. I
We're
hear
still
you.
here.
30 years is like Someone said it's like when we'll be celebrating 15 years for Cuisine Noir, and they're like, "That's dinosaur years or something." I was like, "I know, it takes a lot to stay in this game. It really does." And even when you've got obstacles such as people not coming through, doing what they say
Yeah.
they are going to do, there's just so many things that we have to deal with. But just keeping that why front and center, and just
Mm,
that's huge.
yeah.
'Cause you have to constantly there's so much, so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we got those guides coming up, just celebrating, and again, many more years to come, hopefully. And then also just continuing to see, what the conversations that you were involved in the very beginning, and pointing Black people to great destinations, and
Mm,
pointing brands, hopefully, to Black consumers and bridging
mm.
those.
Yeah.
That's a great thing.
I'll say this much. I definitely think we should be getting a royalty from Yelp and
Okay.
Yahoo Travel because I know they were coming to my site looking for inspiration.
Wow. And so they've got a whole travel community
Yeah, and
around.
then once they got the inspiration, of course, they had the funding
Hmm.
to put boots on the ground and then do research and do extra things. I didn't see anything from Yelp that we couldn't have done
Right.
years before Yelp.
Right.
But it's a common thing that a lot of Black entrepreneurs go through. It's by no means we the only ones. I met a number of other Black entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley who could not raise funds.
Right.
The three that I mentioned earlier, Net Noir, Black Voices, and Urban Box Office, they were the lucky ones because they made the move through the internet in '95. I didn't do that. I made my move in '97.
Hmm.
And in that short span of time, VCs started to move away because they had been investing in those three and weren't seeing the revenue results that they wanted.
Right.
What was different from about us was we had a niche. We knew what our niche was. We knew what the value add was going to be. We knew what the business model was going to be.
Hmm.
Whereas they were like all over the place, trying to be all things Black to all Black people,
Hmm.
which was a difficult thing to pull off
Yeah.
and to do well.
Right.
But one of them raised $40 million.
Hey, that's not too bad.
Yeah,
Not
but they
too
burned
bad.
through it too. I'm not going to name any names.
Right. Well, my last question is, what do you see the future of travel, especially Black travel?
Well, I tell you, I'm a member of the Future of Black Travel uh, organization.
Hmm.
It was founded by Stephanie Jones and Martinique Lewis and another
Okay.
lady whose name escapes me.
Mhm.
She's South African in origin. Um, but they've been pulling us all together, the folks in the Black travel space,
Mhm.
and they've invited me to be part of that in some capacity.
Mhm.
And so what we're doing is making sure there's seeds that are planted and that we water those seeds.
Right.
We'll continue to grow this thing because who knows? I may retire.
Right.
Somebody might come in and make me an offer I can't refuse. I don't know.
Hey.
I don't know. But I want to make sure. I want to make sure that the Black travel ecosystem is continues to grow
Mhm.
and gets a larger slice of both the advertising and e-commerce revenue as befitting the size of our market in America
And our spending
and
power.
our spending power. Because we really, of all the travel ads that are going on out in the world,
Mhm.
we should be getting about 14% of it, 13 at the worst, that's going on in America. We should be getting that much. And if we were, our the folks that are involved with Future Black Travel and all of us and you and so forth, we would be thriving if we
Yeah.
were getting our fair share. But we know that's just not the world we're in today. We have to keep fighting. Just like the ancestors before us, we got to keep pushing ahead.
Absolutely. But Thomas, where can everybody connect with you?
I'm at soulofamerica.com. That's SOULOF as in Frank, America.com.
And social media?
And soul hashtag Soul of America, hashtag Soul of America Travel. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, Pinterest.
Mhm.
Um, don't bother visiting us on Twitter because I just keep that as a placeholder. I'm too pissed off at Elon Musk to be anything that puts anything in his pocket. Now, maybe if they sell and they get their act together, we'll ramp up something over there. But
But definitely Facebook and Instagram is where
Facebook and Instagram, that's
where you're
most.
active.
Yeah, just jump on that. We actually had to suspend doing an e-newsletter for a while because
Okay.
things got tight.
Okay.
And we had to make a choice where we're going to really, really focus on website content or continue to do newsletter. And
Right.
we chose to do the website.
Gotcha.
So that's why we have 155 guides. So
All right.
it's a lot of work, a lot
It
of work,
is.
but I am really proud of our biggest accomplishment that we laid a foundation for Black travel media to grow upon. I'm proud of that. So when I see the younger members of the Future of Black Travel in there, I compliment and I try to share insights with them. Um,
Mhm.
you know, I want them to succeed because hey, I won't be here
Right.
forever.
Right.
I want them to continue to grow
Yeah.
and expand and really get to the point where the same way we have representation in the U.S. military.
Mhm.
That's how I want our representation to be in the travel ecosystem for America.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, Thomas, thank you for spending time with me today, sharing your story, and congratulations again on 30 years.
Thank you.
All
Take
right.
care.